Pastor Tommy here with yet another weekly update. You know, doing these weekly updates, it gets a little difficult to think, gosh, what can I do that's new? What can I do that's exciting? And what I was thinking about doing today was a new series called Hidden Gems from Our Church Library. For example, I might have talked about Bad to the Bone, the story of 15 young leaders in the Bible. Or, I'm not Wonder Woman, I'm wonderful. Maybe even better, Standing Firm, the riveting autobiography of Dan Quayle. And finally, maybe even most relevant for this coming week, Stealing Elections by John Fund. As much as I would like to talk about any one of these books, I have something more important and probably more interesting to talk to you about. Our worship schedule for the next month. So as you know, I think I told you, we worshiped in person about 2 or 3 weeks ago, and we had an after-action review with everyone involved, and then we wrote up a report, and then we presented that to the session, and the session made the following decision, which you also will see in the loop. Basically, it's this. We decided that we are going to gather again for corporate worship on November 8th and November 29th, twice in November. Now, part of the reason for that is, you're saying, why not every week? Well, part of it is the whole issue of volunteers. Part of it is the issue of just making it happen. Part of it also has to do with the issue of what is it accomplishing? Statistically speaking, our church and nationwide, when you have public worship, about 30% of the people show up and 70% of the people don't. So that's exactly what happened in our case. We had about 113 people. It was about 100 if you didn't include special guests for baptisms. We have about 300 members. And so what about for those 70% of our membership? Well, for the 70% of our membership, when we meet on November 8th and November 29th, we will still pre-record the sermon. So the online experience of what we're doing will not change. So basically the live worship services that we have will functionally be like a second service. We used to do 2 services all the time. We used to do 3 services. So that's not really a big issue. So if you are someone who comes, you can say, yay, we're gonna worship on November 8th, November 29th. And if you're someone who's like still either afraid or you're immune compromised and you don't want to come, we understand that as well. And so the experience won't change for you either. And so the question that many of you are probably having is like, so what about after those 2 weeks? What's going on after? Well, I can tell you one thing for sure is that we said definitely no matter what happens, we're going to meet on Christmas Eve. And what about the rest of Advent? Well, that remains to be seen, and it doesn't remain to be seen in that we're unwilling to do it. It remains to be seen in the sense that things change so quickly, and we're just not sure. So next week is the presidential election, and depending on the way the presidential election goes, things could really super open up, or things could really like tighten down. And after the presidential election, we'll have a worship service, and right after that worship service, we have another session meeting. And at that session meeting, we'll decide like, oh, well, we need to just go ahead and open it up, or we don't need to. What you need to know is that we are constantly working on it and constantly trying to keep up with sort of the shifting sands of government regulations. And we're constantly trying to keep in mind that we have a whole congregation. In other words, we have 30% of the people that are like, yeah, let's meet. And another 70% of the people who are like, not so sure. And so it's not as if we're trying to leave anyone behind or we're trying to go forward with certain people. It's just that we're trying to figure out how we can cover the most surface area for the most people most of the time. And so bottom line is this: November 8th and November 29th, we are definitely meeting at 10 a.m. in the morning. Because of what we learned from the first time we met, you do not need to RSVP and you do not need to check in at this service. We will still have social distancing and we will still need to wear masks, I assume. Now, if you're tired of wearing a mask, just think about it. It could be worse. But we're going to do a few changes in worship to make that experience actually a little better. The music a little bit more fluid and that kind of stuff. If you were here, musicians were wearing masks and things, singers were, and so we're going to make some changes there. And so the bottom line is you don't need to RSVP and you don't need to check in when you get here unless you have children who are under 4 years old and you would like them to have childcare. So we will be offering childcare for children under 4 years old, but we need you to RSVP for that. You can email Debbie at newhopekent.org, or you can email Samuel at newhopekent.org. Also, the fireside room will be open for families. It's sort of socially distanced, modified romper room if you want to have your kids back in there as well. So with all of that said, what are we doing for a sermon this week? Well, this week's sermon is about David and Bathsheba and Psalm 51 and David's great sin. And we decided that Samuel was the one who knows more about that subject than innocent little me. So Samuel will be preaching this weekend. I'm super excited, and I'm super excited to see you this weekend virtually and to see you on November 8th. And who knows how often after the presidential election. So God bless you. Have a great week. Pastor Tommy, out.